broker's son and him were in college together, and that's how I met him. And I didn't realize he was just a kid, but he was a kid then.
Still a kid.
Still a kid. He'll always be a kid. He'll always be younger than me. Great lender. Great lender. Has never
You're a car
failed.
dealer, aren't you?
Hello, guys. Please. He's never failed me. I don't know if you can say that about every lender you've ever worked with. He's never failed me. He's always closed. Yes, we've had hurdles. We have hurdles in real estate. But he's a great lender, and I asked him to come and talk today about how to deal with this wonderful market we're in, because it's rough. And we know it's rough. We just have to be smarter than it is and not let it overtake us. So, anybody don't know somebody here? I think we all know everybody? Okay, well, we'll let him get started.
All right, thanks, Kim. So, anybody here been in a multiple offer situation?
Jeez.
Yeah, you would think coming out of COVID, like, how the heck did we get to this point, you know? Like, I never thought that we'd be in an ultra competitive market with prices increasing and trying to deal with multiple offers, and so it's a moving target, things that we're trying to help you guys navigate. I gave you a flyer about our 21-day close there, and that's part of the solution for this. You know, what happened to all the lenders last year is the refis went through the roof as COVID hit because the rates dropped, right? So silence your phones, please. I'm just messing with it. And so, you know, everybody got way behind, right? The company I used to be at got to like 15 days in underwriting. Underwriters were switching companies. They were, you know, getting signing bonuses to go places that they'd never seen before. And every time their 6 month or whatever their obligation was, they'd sign somewhere else and go somewhere else. And so I got to the point where I had to make a decision and make a move to control that process a bit more. And really 21 days is way more than enough to close a loan for us. It's the appraisals that are becoming an issue. I mean, we're approved within a few days, if not less. You know, it's title work coming in, HOA docs, and the appraisal, which the appraisal, I don't know if anybody's having issues with that. We're having lots of issues. The more rural it gets, the more difficult it is. The appraisers are a little bit burnt out. They're cherry picking the orders, and so that has some stipulations on it, obviously, that it's got to be in a major metro area. You know, like, it doesn't say Kaufman County on there, but if the house is in Forney, if it's a lot and block neighborhood, you know, that kind of thing, it's no problem to do that. And like I said, it's
County, Kaufman County, Rockwall County.
Yeah, Rockwall, Kaufman. I mean, it has the 4 major Dallas counties on there, but like, if you guys have something that's in the city where I can get an appraiser there in 7 to 9 business days, you know, then we have no problem closing it.
I think he's talking about the difference between the city part. Kaufman County is so huge, it's got all that country area too.
Right, yeah, and so you get out to Cedar Creek Lake and things like that. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5 weeks to get an appraisal out there. I've got one outside of San Antonio, and it's about 90 minutes outside of San Antonio. The order has been out for 3 weeks, and not one appraiser has accepted it. And we're offering money, we're throwing money at it, just like everything, you know. Lumber's, you know, expensive, they're throwing money at it, you know, like fixtures, things, new builds are all behind, and so the solution is to throw money at it. Well, at some point, everybody just gets fed up and is like, no, I'm not going to do it, you know. And that's my issue in this one in D'Annis, that there's just no one that's willing to spend the time for whatever amount of money we offer, and so you get in those positions and out of your control, right? And so that's what we do best, is control everything we possibly can. So there are things outside of our control, like those appraisals in weird cities, and so that's why we don't guarantee that 21-day close outside of that. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing is we will fully approve the client so that you don't have a financing contingency, and that's something that's more and more prevalent for like your FHA buyers, your VA buyers, who are really getting shafted in this market right now. If you've got a listing and you get 10 offers on it, which are the first ones that go out the door? FHA and VA, right? So
That's what I have, several. I need to find a home.
So unfortunately for them, you know, and really, you know, the FHA appraisals are done by the same people. It's just that you cannot guarantee the appraisal waiver on an FHA or VA loan. So there's a deal called the FHA VA amendatory clause, and it's part of getting an FHA or VA loan, and that supersedes the appraisal addendum. And that's why you guys can't use the appraisal addendum for those loans, is because even if you do sign it, that amendatory clause supersedes that. You cannot bind a government loan like that to someone paying more than what the appraised value is. Now they can pay more than the appraised value. Nothing saying that if the buyer decides that that's what they want to do, they can do it, but you cannot bind them to it. And so that's why the selling agents are like, we're taking this one because they're going to completely waive the appraisal, or they're giving some kind of guarantee.
So I have a question on the stuff that me and you have been doing for one of my clients. It was FHA, and we did an amendment, right? And as long as it appraises for, say, $299, then my buyer is willing to pay $315.
Right.
So
that's non-binding on an FHA and VA loan. If the seller accepts it, that's great.
Yeah.
If the agent doesn't know better and they take that offer.
But some agents do know better, and that's
right.
Probably a reason why.
It's non-binding, but it doesn't mean they can't do it.
Right.
Right.
So.
But if the, like you said, if the agent does know, then.
Right. Yeah. So, and they're all being educated about it. I mean, everybody's got buyers, and they go into that situation, so they're learning more and more about it. So there's three clauses in that appraisal addendum, right? One is you don't care what it appraises for, you're going to buy it. Two is if it appraises for this, then you'll still pay that. And then the third one is
at the asking price.
At the asking price.
Okay.
So and I think I agree with option 2, right? So if it appraises for whatever you list it for, that's what you think it's worth, and we're willing to pay $20,000 over, you know, this whole like full-blown like appraisal waiver thing it's crazy to me, but there's people that do it. And what we're seeing though with the appraisals is most of them are coming in over list price. It's just that they're not hitting what they're, you know, actually contracted for, which the buyer knows. I had one, and I was just flabbergasted by the offer. They got the house for $650. It was listed at $540, and they've signed a full appraisal waiver on it. And I just could not believe that these people were going to do that. Well, the appraisal came in at $630 yesterday.
Wow.
Lucky that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the market is moving. The houses are selling. They lag just enough, and as long as that home closes by the time the appraiser does the effective date of that appraisal, then those comps are usable for that appraisal. And luckily there were 2 that closed right around 630 in that same neighborhood. So the appraisals aren't as bad as you would expect them to be in that scenario. And then there's also the tactic of listing below market value to incite the multiple offers, which they obviously did. So
I have a question. Did you notice, or do you know if that particular house, if you know, what they were asking, if they raised their sales price in the MLS to try to target where the appraisal was coming in, or did they leave the sales price?
I don't know that answer, but I don't think they changed it, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, yeah, no, I saw the appraisal and it said list price was that. And they had a comment in there, you know, this market is different. And you can use that as an appraisal compensating factor, right? There was 33 offers all over list price, you know, with all conventional financing. Like, they can make those notes in there and actually give you credit for that too, because it's not as much as you're going to need in that scenario, but it does help the appraised value. So
I've just seen that as a tactic to kind of show the appraiser where we're trying to be. So
yeah, I've seen the listing agents give them like a spreadsheet of what the offers were, and so they can see and prove that. You know, it's up to the appraiser really, and so And there's not as many comps because there's not as many sales out there. So you would think this appraiser issue wouldn't be an issue, you know, but it seems that they're just as busy as they have been or more. And it's just making things take a little bit longer. But we're getting good quality appraisals back like that on pretty much everything. You know, we employ an appraisal management company that has very experienced appraisers on it. We're not using companies like LandSafe, like Bank of America or Wells Fargo uses, who pay their appraisers much less and they care a lot less, and they just turn reports in and don't. When you go back to them, they don't have any rebuttal. You know, Kim and I talked about a VA one the other day, and VA to me has a better process to it because they tell you before the appraisal comes in that it's going to be short. It's called Tidewater, and they invoke the Tidewater Act, and it says, hey, please, I don't see the value here. Please do my job for me and send me the comps, and then I'll send you the report if I agree. You know, they send you the report, but whether it meets or not is up to them, you know. But it lets you make that argument before they make their opinion, because just like anybody, once you have an opinion, it's very difficult to change your mind. And so that's, in the conventional and FHA process, it's opposite, right? Appraisal comes in, and then you can go back in a rebuttal situation. So ideally, they could probably change that factor. So that gray sheet there, it has some things on it that I have seen, and you know, we're closing 30 plus purchase transactions a month, and so we see a lot. You know, I make a lot of phone calls on Sundays and Mondays, backing up offers, following, you know, the pre-qual letters or the approval letters that we're sending out, making sure the listing agents understand that we're local and live and how that process works with us. But there's things that you guys can do, and I listed some of the tactics out that I've seen. One of the ones we just started doing recently on FHA is showing the loan amount based on the purchase price or the list price, right? So even though you can't send the appraisal addendum in, say then the example's in there at $300,000, your down payment would be 3.5%. But say you offer is it $330 I put on there? And so you would show $330 with a loan amount of $288.5, which would be their loan amount based off of that. You could go to the next step and show them proof of funds like you're doing a cash offer, and actually show them that that borrower has that $50,000, $40,000 in the bank. You know, obviously black out their account number before you put that in there. But that's one way to show them that they have it. You know, you can put a letter in there, you can put an addendum in there, however you want to do it. It's just, ultimately, they're not bound to it. So if that appraisal comes in way short, you guys still have an out for your buyers if they want to get out. So,
question for you on Brooks, so on a contract, third-party financing addendum, for FHA or VA, we have that one little clause where it says it has to appraise at X value. Is that the price we're putting in that we've offered, say, and use it real simple, $100,000 house, so they're putting, you know, say they're offering, normally it'd be $100,000, it'd be $3,500 down, you know, finance 96.5. And so on that third-party finance addendum, would that be the $100,000, or would it be the 96.5?
I mean, you could put the $100,000 in there. I mean, if your offer is 110.
I mean, what does it have to appraise? Does it have to appraise at the loan value, or does it have to appraise at the loan value plus the down payment?
I mean, technically for FHA, it has to appraise at the purchase price.
Okay.
But you could probably put it in there. I mean, Kim would be a better person to say legally or ethically if that's right. But if you wanted to show that, yes, they will still pay, you know, the difference, you could show that appraised value at $100,000.
So going for the $100,000, if you're offering 105, even though they're asking 100, and would you put 100,000 over on the third-party finance?
You could.
Saying it has to appraise at 100,000. Would that be legal binding then in that situation? No.
Ultimately,
but it's an addendum. It's not an amendment. That it's
right.
talking about appraisal now.
So really, you're just putting in the amount that it was listed for, and
No,
then
you put in what your offer price is.
the whole thing included.
well, if you put
over?
your offer price, that's how you're supposed to do it, right? Is you put your offer price as the must
Well, I've
appraise
seen people just
for.
put in the loan amount in there, which, you know. has never been.
It's not, yeah, that's not right ever, you know, it's usually your offer amount, but if you're saying, if it's listed at 100 and you're offering 110, and you wanted to put 100 in there, you could do that, you know, especially if the buyer's okay.
That, right?
Technically, no, you know, it's still not, nothing supersedes that FHA mandatory clause, so, I mean, you could do that, you could point it out, you're kind of gaming the selling agent in some way, but ultimately they're not bound to it.
So for VA or FHA, there's no way
To be bound.
No way to be bound by it.
Yeah.
It's the protection that
They're the last ones on the bottom of the list.
they're always the last ones on the list, yeah. Especially your bond loans that need a little extra time to close, or your, and VA seems to get the worst because they always have, you know, because the selling agents don't want to deal with the termite inspection or the, you know, the VA appraisal process, but those appraisals are coming in 10 days, you know, like they're, in some cases, actually coming in quicker than what the other ones, you know, especially the rural ones are coming in, so, yeah, it's a different world out there. So there's some other tactics in there too that you guys can use. You know, obviously the letter from the heart from the client, paying title policy, no contingencies, and that's really kind of what you have to get to. So I was at I'm in the Core, which is a business training, mortgage and lending, and real estate agents, some of the best in the country. And one of the agents given this class said that he has a buyer's agreement with these buyers, and it's really, you know, showing them your value, but also a little bit of a takeaway to them. And it's saying that, you know, hey, this is the way the market is. You know, you're going to be paying over list price, you're going to be paying over appraised value. Do you have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to spend, whatever that number is in their scenario, and are you comfortable spending that? And just ask them flat out from the beginning, you know, doing a full buyer presentation. You know, because you do a listing presentation, right? How many of you do a buyer presentation when you first start working with a buyer? Not many people do. So that's, you know, getting them to sign with you as an exclusive agent, because you need that if they happen to step into a builder's office or whatever. But really having that conversation with them. This is the way the market is. What you want is not going to happen, you know. You're not going to buy a home in Forney for $250,000 with 3% down. It's not going to happen. So are you willing to look in Wills Point or Quinlan or wherever, you know, the next city over is, where you can get them what they want? This is the research I've done. This is what they have. Are you willing to do that? No. Okay, maybe this market's not for you then. Because you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time, you know. So how many more buyers can you work with if you let those people go and you're not driving them all over, you know, East Texas looking for a house? The other piece of that puzzle is he gives them an option. Okay, yes, this is what you want to do. Okay, great. And here's the scenario. You can sign my exclusive buyer's rep agreement, and as soon as a house that comes on the market that looks like that, you'll be the first person that I call. Or if you don't want to sign that, after I get done calling those people, I'll call you. Would you like to sign this or not?
The other thing on buyer's rep agreement for you guys, what I do is, some people get concerned about, you puts in there, it says that they'll pay you 3%, right? But they have to read the next paragraph, which says that it comes from the seller's proceeds, okay, first. And then if it's not collected, then you can go after them. But, you know, you'd be stupid to, if the agent only pays 2.5%, to say, well, you owe me 0.5%. I mean, you're killing your future business with them. You know, just say, hey, I'm not going to hold you at 3% if the other, you know, if the listing agent is only going to pay 2.5% or 2%, whatever it is. I'm not going to come back after you for the 0.5% or 1%.
And I'm starting to hear about situations where they're not paying 3%.
They're not.
Most transactions are not.
The sad part about that is as buyer's agents, we're the ones putting more miles on our car because of these multiple offer situations and like that. Mm-hmm. And so we're putting more time into it than that listing agent, who should really take a big cut, because they put the house up and they're done in a week.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably taking the listing with a big cut, and they're saying, well, I'm not gonna take it for 1%.
You're right, you're
You know,
right.
I'm gonna take one from you, and we'll do
Right.
2 and 2, or, you know, 3 and,
Right.
you know. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. And what the builders are doing, you know, Lennar's paying, what, 1% now? And,
1%.
Darling's paying a flat fee, $7,000, and all their homes are 700 plus, so they're 1% or less, you know. Taylor Morrison's the same because they own Darling. So there's, I saw a list out there. If you guys want it, I'll send it to you. Someone put it on Facebook of what they kind of aggregated what all the builders are doing, and so they're, you know, Lennar's basically trying to become their own. You know, we don't need you. We don't need you. They've done that to lending a long time ago. They did it to title. You know, they've done it to. Now they own 25% of Open Door. I don't know if you guys know that or not. So they're doing it to the listing side. So supporting companies like that, you know, and basically what they've said now is we don't need you, we don't care, and we're going to do our own thing, and people are going to buy our houses no matter what. So it's a very, I used to work for Lennar. It's a very interesting
20,
company.
if they sell 20 at a time to investors for cash, they did that over
Do
here.
they really?
Mhm.
Yeah, they get in a
27.
bind and they need to hit they're very publicly traded companies like that. You know, I have a deal with DR Horton that's supposed to close next month. I don't know if anybody's had a new build move up in time, but this one is. They're supposed to close the 6th of July, and they came back to me yesterday saying, hey, we're closing on the 28th, but the buyers are out of town. So power of attorney and mom's going to sign and all this stuff. And I'm like, what? But they dictate the whole thing. I had another one where the lady qualified with us, went to use DHI mortgage. They didn't approve her, and now they're saying that she didn't comply with their timelines, and so they're canceling her contract, and she's more than welcome to buy the house, but she's gonna have to recontract on it, and the sales price is now $30,000 more than what she originally contracted on it. So they're using these very shady tactics to force buyers out of contract because her loan is approvable. There's no question it's approvable. But they're saying that she didn't send the documents over when they asked, and so they're canceling her contract. So.
I met a lady at a restaurant 2 weeks ago that I was fixing to pick up, and she fed me that same kind of story of what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
We've had nightmare stories of things. that
It's
happen.
like-
Well, their new clauses are, you know, we can raise the sales price if it costs us more to build this house. And if you can't qualify, sorry, we'll cancel it and resell it to someone else. I'm sorry, you know, we'll refund you a portion of your, I think you lose part of your earnest money in some cases. And, you know, it's not fair to the builders, you know, to have to pay for someone's, you know, issues. But on the other side, like, it's, you know, how do you know, like, how can you say that it costs you 50, are you going to show me? Or is you're just going to say it costs you 50,000 more to build this house? And, you know, I just think that open-ended contracts like that aren't fair to anybody, so.
We're seeing where they have the power to increase during the contract, some of the builders do.
Mhm.
And yeah, I work with a couple of builders, and part of the problem is they'll only guarantee them a price for a material for a week. If they don't order during that week, when they call back, it's going up $2,500 per item. And over time, $2,500 turns into $30,000, which makes it where they can't make a profit. You know, because people think, oh my God, they make $200,000 on this house. Wrong.
Yeah.
It's not.
Typical builders make 10 to 15% max, especially in the production builder world. So if they're on a $300,000 home, like, they're probably losing money on every single one of them. So I get that, and lumber futures are coming down. It's going to help, you know. This won't last forever. It's a moment in time. I don't know if we're anywhere close to the end of this, you know, hyperactive, you know, over a list situation, because there's so many buyers out there that are still needing homes and wanting homes. And the other thing that's going to exasperate it is the people that have homes and have rates that are 2.75% aren't going to want to sell, because what's going to change the market is interest rates are going to go up at some point. Inflation's going up, so interest rates are going to have to go up. So that will slow the market down in some way. But now these people that are at 2.5% aren't going to want to sell their house and get out of it, because they're not going to be able to buy more home because the payment's going to be the same, and or way more. If they're going from $300,000 to $400,000 home, and the rate's 2.5% to 4%, that payment just $600, $700 a month. So do we need to move or do we not need to move? So when people say, "Oh, I think I'm going to wait for the market to cool down," that's not the answer, in my opinion. Like, you need to buy before the rates go up, because prices are going to continually go up, and you need to find the affordability in the right home for you before the market changes. So,
when do you see the rates going up?
like 2 months ago, I don't know. They should be going up. Like they went up a little bit yesterday, but they've been going down, for the last month or so. Yeah, it's going to be a stair-step effect as they go up. I don't know that I would say by the end of the year they should be in the high 3s. That's not up. That's it's up, but it's not high. Like when they broke 4, they'd never broken 4 before. So to be in the 3s, it's just educating people on that. And you're still going to have buyers, right? So the economy should be great for the next couple years. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand, even though you can't buy luxury items and things like that, but there's a lot of money out there. So the economy should be good for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years until we cycle into the next recession. So rates should be going up with that, but that's a purchase market, so it means that house prices are going up with it. So you still have buyers until that certain point, until that number just doesn't work anymore, right? Until the house prices go up far enough and interest rates go up far enough to where something has to happen for the market to keep going. So prices will start to come down a little bit, but people won't be buying, and then interest rates will have to come down in order to get that equilibrium back. So there's supply and demand issues, but I say to any buyer that's looking today that says we're going to wait a year, I said that's not a good idea.
I had a guy that been working with, and up in Salina, these Castle Rock homes, and she called me, the builder, and says, "Well, you need to tell your buyer that it's going up 50,000. Have the price increase." And I said, "Well, where's he at on the list now? Because they're on the list." She goes, "Oh, he's still 81." And so
no reason to tell them anything, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm going.
Unless all 80 of the ones in front of him say, "No, I'm not going to pay 50 more," then there's his opportunity.
Well, I called him, and he said, "I've been watching the prices. I see that they've gone up." And he said the same thing. He said, "Well, I'm just don't worry about it. I'm going to wait a year and see where we're at in a year." And I said, "Well, what you got to do is look at rates versus price, and
higher interest rate and higher price, both."
Yeah.
Both. That's the thing that'll crush them in the end, and then they'll end up not buying then. So, we've got some calculators that we can share with you guys. I've got one that I've been using with Wade on a client that he's got in Frisco, and it shows, and I've got a video I've done on it I can send to you guys, but it's basically, it shows you how to keep the buyer, like if they say they have $100,000 they want to spend, and that's 20% down on whatever they're buying, but now they're having to go $50,000 over list, and it won't appraise, then I can show you what it looks like with $50,000 plus $50,000 out of pocket, and it really doesn't change their payment a whole lot. Like, the guy that we're working with is like a $550 to $650 client, and he's having to go 30, 40, 80 in some cases over list price, but his payment's only fluctuating a couple $100 a month depending on what scenario is and where it appraises, and so it illustrates that for you very well with adding mortgage insurance to a 10% down loan instead of having 20% down or whatever it is, but it still keeps their cash to close at the same number or close to it. So we can help marry that together, and that's a big help.
I don't see many people with a 550, 650 to have 50K sitting.
$550,000 to $650,000 buy. Buy, not credit score.
Oh.
Buy.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
560 credit scores aren't.
We have 4 in there.
What-
Yeah.
Can you tell me what's actually holding up because I've heard several things. Is it the permits being given to the builders, or is it the lumber shortage or the lumber price? What is holding that up? Because
All of it, supply chain. I had one the other day, couldn't close because the stove wasn't in. So they had to go out and find a different stove in order to close on their house.
Huh.
There's, labor shortages. Like I'm building a pool at my house right now, and I was talking to the construction guy. They did the gunite the other day, and I was like, "So, what's next?" And he's like, "Well, maybe stone, maybe tile. I'm not sure. Whoever's ready next." He's like, "They could do either one first, but." And I said, "When?" He's like, "Maybe a week. It might be 2. It could be 3. I don't really know." And this is the most reputable pool builder in town, and they control as much as they can with their trades, but when they have to go outside of the people that they employ, it's at the mercy of when the stone guy's ready, or when the tile guy's ready, or when the tile comes in. I had a new build 3 months late because the tile didn't come in. They had to have that tile, so they didn't want to compromise, so they had to wait 3 months to close their house. So
We're a month over at the Azel houses because when they go in and pick with the little, we have a design person that meets them. He's an independent builder, builds like 15 a year. But when they go to pick out the tile and they're excited about it and it's perfect and we've already got the price and all this, well then when they get ready to get it and to order it, they'll have enough. So then they're having to order something and they have to wait. So it pushed us out, pushed us out. Because 3/4 of the house is tile, wood look tile.
yeah, and if it's not made of Dow tile down the street, it's probably imported from India or China or something like that. If you look at any news article, there's 100 ships sitting in the ocean waiting to unload, and then that supply chain of getting that from LA to Texas and all that process. So
And the Panama Canal back up for a while.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah,
It's a
and
terrible domino effect, man.
yeah, and it's not the shortage. There's not a shortage of wood for the lumber. It's the shortage of the mills to process the wood. So typically they have warehouses full at the lumber mill that's full, and someone orders. Well, those warehouses are completely depleted because the lumber mills were closed for 2, 3, 4 months for through COVID, and they just can't get those things replenished. So as fast as they're cutting that lumber, it's going out the back door into the next place, and so they can't ever catch up to and it takes them 2 years to build a new lumber mill. So
It really needs to cure.
yeah, it really needs to sit before they're putting wet wood up in your house. And so that's the other thing, is what comes out of the other side of that. So, but I mean, I was doing just a little renovation at my I was fixing a closet. I was buying 2x4s. They're $10 a piece. Usually they're like $1.97, like $10 for a 2x4. And blew my mind. Ernesto kept telling me I needed more wood. I'm like, stop wasting. Make better cuts, just throw that stuff out the back door.
I have a friend that's a carpenter the one I played golf with on Friday, says he went to buy a piece of certain type of sheet, not sheetrock, plywood, $76.
It was 96 when I was in Home Depot that
Oh
day.
my gosh.
96 for what?
For a piece of plywood.
Piece of plywood.
About $20.
Yeah, they're about $30, I think was the number.
Man.
Yeah. So that number's coming down. The futures were at $1,500 at one point. Now they're just over 1,000. They typically are at like 600. So
Oh, that's good.
that cost will come down, but it's going to take everything else to replenish the supply chain. Fixtures, appliances.
Shortages in some product that goes in concrete. Is it fiberglass or is it? There's
In
some
concrete?
product that goes in concrete.
Aggregate.
Something that goes into it that mixes in with it
Mm-hmm.
that they're having a shortage on. So sometimes pouring a slab, they're delayed because they can only send out so many a day because that's all they have to make with.
Yeah. I was building homes in Windmill Farms in 05, and they were talking same kind of thing with concrete. I think that's just a boom and bust kind of deal, because in 05 they were pouring 5 slabs a week or 10 a week in our neighborhood. So it's really just being diligent and being honest with those buyers. This is what the market is. Can you handle it or not? Or I'm not going to waste my time, because this is really what it is. We can go look for houses all day long and you can think you're going to get them, but you have to be fully approved. You have to, if at all possible, go conventional, and you have to be willing to pay over the list price. If you're not willing to do that, then we need to, you need to go find someone else. And unfortunately, you know,
So
we
what do
don't
you
ever
tell
want
them?
to see a client walk out the door, but
What do you
like,
tell the FHA 200 to 250 people?
that they need to make more money or have less pay so they can buy more house. I mean, we're getting a few of those here and there. They have to compromise on where they want to live, you know. You're not going to get that. You know, like, this is the resurgence of Mesquite, right? You know, Mesquite was not a place that people wanted to live for a long time. Well, you know, this is how towns like that come back to life, is people are now having to compromise that would normally live in Garland, now they're going to go to Mesquite. Or they're going to go to Seagoville, or they're going to go to Midlothian, or, you know, so they just have to compromise on where they want to live, and if they're not willing to make that compromise, then
They wait, or they build if they can get on the list. We had one on 15 lists. You know what I'm talking about.
15 lists.
Yeah, you are waiting for their house to be built right now. Because they looked in Florida too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
anyway, they were on 15 waiting lists. Pulte from Royce City finally called and said, we're fixing to let them come in and select their plan, and we're gonna start pouring. And they're supposed to finish in October. So, November.
And they're a VA
Thanksgiving.
buyer,
They're
so,
a VA, but
yeah.
they talked to them directly, the builder called them directly, talked with them, filled them out, make sure they're ready to go, and so they finally got called, but they were on 15 builders from the other side of Fort Worth to the other side of almost to Greenville,
How
Texas.
long were they on that, Cam?
2 months.
Well, it's not too bad.
But they're on 15 of them. They're
15.
probably
Right.
still on the other 14.
And the
Right,
agent
so-
called all of them every week, where are we on the list, how's it looking, anything fell out. That's the biggie, you get one that's all the way ready to close and something happens, somebody bought a refrigerator, somebody bought a car, somebody had a big expense and they spent their money, and they fall out. If you're on the list, then boom, you can snag it, so you gotta call them, you gotta call every week on those lists, so.
Mhm.
We have to do our homework, like, they have
It's
to
more
do
work
theirs.
for more work for less transactions, but like it's just nothing came easy, right? You know, this business isn't easy. It's not easy in a down market. It's not easy in an up market. You know, like we had a nice run at the end of last year and probably the year before. You know, where things were, you know, there was enough houses and there was, you know, they'd sit on the market for a couple days or a week and you could buy a home. But like where we are today is just, you have to be more diligent and you have to be willing to work harder for each client. And, you know, I mean, that's where Melissa's going right now. She's driving all over the world to find,
Cleburne,
yeah,
somewhere,
Midlothian last
Midlothian.
week, and I mean, they were under contract in, where was that? Wills Point, or I don't know where the other one was, but
There was Alvarado.
Well, that one
That's-
fell out yesterday. I think they already took a contract before she got there, so she didn't go to Alvarado yesterday.
Yeah, it's,
They have a home here to sell, a very nice home here to sell, but it's going to go to 40 offers in 2 days,
mhm.
so they've got to find something, and they can buy without selling.
It's probably benefiting them every day it sits there that they don't sell it, you know.
It's a really not, it's a cute floor plan. I went and met with
But
them.
to answer your question on the government loans, like you may have to go to a new build, you know, at 200,000 if you can find one. I mean, I know there's that one neighborhood, the Cracker Jack Box neighborhood, that
Lennar,
Lennar, yeah.
1%.
So
Yeah, but where?
Right there on
240,
Clements.
right? Clements.
They still have inventory.
For 200?
Under 179, 189.
Mhm.
But they are, I mean, they are,
1,200 square feet, 1,250, something like that,
Yeah,
they're
Like,
paper,
stuck
they're,
together, yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say this. I'm gonna say this, I think they're made out of a poster board.
if it rains too hard, they melt.
It's just bad. I mean, they're really
That
cheap.
siding on the outside?
It's hardy board.
It's
Hardy
all-
board has
it's
50
like
year
fake
warranty
hardy
on it,
board.
but I
Yeah.
think it's almost it's really, you feel like you push it and it's gonna fall in. It's bad.
I used to sell those homes in Aubrey back in '06. We were
Are they
selling
still
1,200.
around?
They're still there, yeah.
I mean, I have
90,000 bucks. They were 1,200 square feet.
I have a client, and that's might be just what they need to end up doing. I mean, we don't have a choice.
Henry Ford, his sister is looking at one. That's just her what she wants to spend. She can spend more, but she doesn't want to. And it's new. So, you know, it's a start. An investor's gonna buy from them if they ever decide to sell, probably 20 over what they're asking.
It's
Because
better than renting,
It's better than renting.
They should appraise, so you shouldn't have appraisal issues, you know, so.
You said that that neighborhood starts at 175?
179.9, I believe, and I think the ones or two that they have, it's like 189.
How long
What I
does
was
it
told.
take to get somebody in?
I
This
think
is
they're
Clement-
building these.
Clements Ranch.
No, it's on the
It's on your way
460.
to Rockwall there.
What's
yeah.
460? The
Uh-huh.
little cut over to
It's
740.
kind of by Travis Ranch.
It's,
right?
yeah,
That's-
Penn,
isn't that Trinity Crossing?
it's Clements 460.
460.
Yeah, so it's that little bitty section.
You
You
can
know what?
actually go down here and cut across the bridge.
I mean, they're 40-foot lots, and you know the backyard's no bigger than this room, you know, but it's
It is what
it's
it is.
cheaper than an apartment in these,
Yeah,
you know.
it's like-
It gets them into a home. It probably gives them
Could be better than
appreciation, you know.
Two-bedroom
So.
apartment in Forney, Texas is with a, I needed a little garage, but I did look into it, $1,800 a month.
Yeah. So a house payment on 180, you know, with 3% down is, you know, $1,200 a month with taxes and insurance. So
And I guarantee you it's
you know,
better than.
get every renter in Forney into those houses, you know.
Crandall has some that are in the low 200s, their Lennars. Their backyards are pretty good size. I took some buyers over there, and she wound up buying in Terrell, but they were,
Wildcat Ranch.
Yeah.
It's
Please,
expensive there.
please tell them how displeased we are at their 1% commission, because we work really hard and tires are
Yeah.
expensive, so please.
Wildcat Ranch is
Everybody goes in,
expensive.
please tell them
No,
how
this
displeased
is-
we are.
Yeah.
this is a Lennar place.
I'm not
by
promoting
itself.
Lennar because I get cut out of the scenario,
Yeah,
but you
but-
know, that's if you have buyers like that, like that's really their only solution, you know. Like,
If they have
or-
down payment assistance though,
I-
we wouldn't have to use, or, we
yeah,
wouldn't have to use.
if they don't offer down payment assistance, we can do it for them. Yeah. So.
They
But-
have FHA, DPA, that road, well,
They'll go USDA
Program.
out here too.
We do, yeah. I don't know. Does
Making
Lennar offer
1%
that?
better than 0%.
I don't think they
though.
offer it, but
but I
the
have two
T-Shack
people,
down payment program, yeah.
I have two that are just in that
How-
situation.
How
We need
long
homes now.
before, this is a whole nother scenario, but how long forbearance is lifted, correct?
Mhm.
End of this month?
Mhm.
How
Mhm.
long,
They extended it for like 1 million people, I think, this last week. So.
but after that's completely lifted, how long do you think we have to wait? Is it like a typical foreclosure of they have to clear liens and all that kind of stuff?
You got to give them notice and all that stuff. Ultimately, these mortgage companies don't want to force foreclosure on anybody. So it's extremely expensive. Their equity's gone up. You know, most of those people can sell unless they're so far behind. But if they're in forbearance for 2 years and they've got 40,000 to add on to their principal, then they might. So ultimately, they don't want to foreclose on anyone. They'll short sell them. They'll, you know, try to get them to sell before that. It's just a bad look for it, especially if you're mass foreclosing on people. So it seems like there's a couple aggregators out there. You know, like all the loans from mortgage companies get sold to someone, and I don't know who the company is. There's 2 of them out there doing this. They're going to, you know, all these servicing companies and saying, give me all your loans that are in forbearance, we'll pay you, you know, 80 cents on the dollar for them. And they're like, okay, here you go, you know. So they'd rather take that loss up front than have to deal with them down the road. And there's 2 that are buying them up, and they obviously have some sort of plan with them. So they're trying to work with them in some way to keep, yeah, they've got some sort of plan where they're working with them to try to keep them out of foreclosure, or their other thing is they're going to foreclose on all of them and not care what the repercussions are on it. I don't think there's going to be a flood of foreclosures on the market. That's just not going to happen
Not with all the equity
anytime
in them.
soon. Not with all the equity.
There was an article about that. They said so much equity's gone in these people's homes that you won't see a foreclosure we saw in 2008, 2009.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that's out there. I mean, there's going to be some. I mean, there's always 1 to 2%. You know, it might go to 3% or something like that, but it's not going to go to 7% like it was in 2007 and 8. 9%, I think, is actually hit at some point. So there is some talk of, like, because of the tax laws changing for capital gains and stuff like that, that investors are going to be selling their homes this year, ones that have owned it for certain periods of time that need to sell it to capitalize on whatever the tax laws are. I don't see that that's going to be like something that's even going to be noticeable in the market. The good news is that those are, usually $200,000 or $300,000 homes in this market. So you could see some more first-time buyer type products come out there, but There's cash investors all over the place. There's money
Oh,
everywhere.
They're blowing our.
They're pulling their money out of commercial and putting it into residential because they don't know what, they don't know what the office world is going to be like going forward. I mean, I know my office building, it's, there's 14-story office buildings there, and there's, 1,000 cars in the parking lot on the best day. And there's usually 6,000 cars or whatever the number is, like you get whatever parking space you want to next to the front door at any point. So I think you'll see those convert into condos, some of them into condos at some point. Hopefully that'll open up something. And that's the other thing for your 200,000 people is possibly condos, but you got to be super careful of are they warrantable or not, and you go through that process, and that's a whole nother class and topic to talk about.
If they're over 50% rentals, they can't go FHA.
Well, they got to be FHA approved, which
FHA
there's
approved.
How do you get them approved?
it's a process. It's called DELRAP, and you have to go through this. Really, the HOA has to go through the process to get the whole complex approved. You can do spot approvals on certain ones, but the process is difficult. I think I looked in Dallas County, and there's 4 condo complexes that are FHA approved.
Do you know what they are?
Yeah, I could give you
Is
the names.
Westbury Park condos one of them? I don't
Is
think
that just
so.
condos or like townhouses too?
Yeah.
Townhouses don't have that issue. It's only condos. Yeah. The
I
difference
have-
in condo and a townhome is you don't own the land underneath it, so
Right.
there's different bylaws and stuff that go with
And I
it.
have a condo that's listed, and I've had a couple agents ask, and I was like,
All you have to do is go to Google FHA condo approval list, and it'll take you to the FHA website.
there's
You
4
plug
of them
in,
huh, in
there's
Dallas.
4. Yeah, you'll see some, like it's a whole grid, and it'll say approved or, expired. A lot of them are expired. Not that they're declined, it's just that they've expired and they have not updated their approval.
Because I have an investor that's wanting to know, and he asked for the HOA
Well, you
information.
can always go back to everything that's sold in there and see if anybody did FHA.
Yeah, and we
That
saw
tells you.
one, remember? That's why we
They
ended
did,
up
should we
putting it
close it
on
right
there.
Mm.
But this investor guy's like, he wants to know before he goes and buys. He wants to talk,
Because he
to
wants to
the-
be able to sell it.
He was trying to do Airbnb, but they have a thing to where you have to do 6 months or more leases. So,
Those are out there. I have an investor client listed his property in Allen for $6,700 a month, fully furnished for 6 months to someone that, got hit with the freeze, or people that are building houses don't have anywhere to go. I mean, it's usury almost, that house lists for $2,500 normally, but he fully furnished it. It's on Airbnb, and these people were like, well, we'll take it for 6 months. He said, okay, here's the price, and they took it.
There's a builder with a
$6,700.
house off of Greenville that he rents. It's an enormous amount of money that he gets, and people rent it by the month,
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that freeze didn't help anything with the rental market. That's, the rental market's ridiculous right now, from what I hear.
So Brooks, what do you tell a listing agent calls you for a referral on someone that they've got an offer on their house, on this house, on their listing,
Mhm.
and they're calling you to check on the buyer, okay, and it's an FHA one.
Okay.
And so they're saying, hey, they're asking for more than what I've got list, and appraisal and they say, but they're saying, if it appraises 100,000, but they're offering me 110,
Mhm.
do you tell them to approve for the 110? Do you say anything about the appraisal at all, or
Yeah.
they're not bound by it?
Yeah. Well, I don't go into that. I'm not going to tell them that part of it, but I'll tell them that they've got, if it comes in at 100,000, they have the money to span the difference. We're trying to help you guys get contracts accepted in any way, so we'll feel it out with you first on what you want me to tell them, and then I usually try to be proactive so I don't get caught in, I'm answering 3 different phone calls and all of a sudden they're asking me crazy questions. So I try to be proactive with that and say, okay, Jeff, what do you want me to tell them? Well, this is what we're offering. They're willing to pay the difference. Okay, hey, they have $30,000 in the bank. They can cover this. If the appraisal doesn't come in, as long as you believe it's going to come in at 95 or more, then they're good to go. We'll give them as much information as you want us to give them.
Which is something to add to your list, is having the lender call the listing agent. That helped me out in Arlington. The lender called me and told me that they're solid people. I had a few lenders call me. It was only a handful out of the 47 offers I had.
Yeah.
But it makes a difference, because then you know that person cares. And so if you guys are doing multiple offer situations, you should be calling your lender up saying, hey, we put an offer in for this, do you mind calling the listed agent, here's their phone number, and letting them know about our person, or send them an email, that way you've got it documented, showing what
Yeah, and a
they're.
lot of them had this 21 days or 30 days, whatever, so guaranteed to close within so many days. You can send that off with your offer too. It just helps against maybe something that's just like your offer, but they're like, you know, because they know that the lender is going to be diligent.
But you calling, calling your lender, your buyer's lender, and saying, hey, can you call this agent please, and let them know how solid they are.
Yeah, and I'll leave them a voicemail. If they don't answer, I'll leave them a voicemail, and then I'll send them a video usually, because I want to make sure that they got that information, whatever it is that makes you stand out just a little bit more, you
It
know.
does, make a difference.
It helps for sure.
What kind of
I
video?
like that.
Just a, hey, this is Brooks, I'm the lender for, the Smiths.
Video? Did you say video?
Video.
Text
I'll
video.
text them a video.
Oh,
30 seconds. Hey, this is Brooks.
Audio.
I'm the lender for the Smiths. And
It's on the golf course.
here's their qualification. Yeah, right. Take the hat off. Pull on the collared shirt I got in my golf bag. Yeah, anything we can do to help, like our we tell them the appraisers are local, we control the panels. This is, that process. So that's always their question.
I'll tell you, that really works, because I'd never had somebody do this to me when I was looking for my truck. One of the sales managers went out there and did a video of that truck I was asking about. Just pictures but he did a walk around video talking about that truck. And that was really cool. That does make an impression.
We got a lot of people buying sight unseen. It's not my favorite thing to deal with in the world, but sight unseen and doing FaceTime or Google or whatever y'all do.
Probably at least 10 or 20% of the offers are,
There's at least 5 agents
Shotgun
that are open
offers
house
out on-
doing that this
Video,
weekend.
and yeah, because they're out of state and they get tired of coming out here and
Yeah.
back and forth, so they come during their auction. So,
And this isn't, this is everywhere. Like California is in multiple. We think everybody's moving out of California. Everything in California is in multiple offers too. It's not 40, it's 10.
it's everywhere.
But it's
Washington, New York,
everywhere.
Utah. I'm talking to them. They're like, I'm making 10, 15 on my house, so I can give you 10, 15, but it just ain't working here,
Yeah,
unfortunately
10 or
for us.
15 is not working here.
Uh-uh.
But we've gotten some that are like that. It's just being thinking a
And
little
it's
different.
the area.
It's
too.
really the client. It comes down to the client. Like, what are they willing to do?
Right.
That's
Well, he
to
wanted Roy
get a
City,
home.
and then so we tried Greenville. I was like, well, maybe you'll have a better chance in Greenville, Well, that didn't work either, so I'm like, I don't know where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
One of the positive things to talk about, travel time. I know traffic issues are traffic issues, but just like when we went to Vegas, when we went to Hoover Dam when I was a kid, I didn't think we was ever going to get there. But now with our highways and stuff, it's a lot quicker to get place to place. And a lot of buyers will tell me, I want to be within an hour of Dallas.
it's a long way to be an hour from Dallas.
Yeah, so, but just say, hey, when you're talking to them, say, you've got George Bush, you've got this down the south, and
Well, if you're buying out here, that Nextlink internet too, if they're working from home, like that's a huge upgrade to what Skywave was that we have out at the lake.
Next link now.
It's a Nextlink, and I went from like 10 megabytes to 35 for the same price, and I can actually work from there now. Before it was just not doable really, because my softwares would shut down, and a lot of people have to use VPNs for work, and so talking about that ability, like, hey, you can be a little more rural. It's not, fiber or whatever, but
it is a land-based line. It's not satellite.
it's well, it's point to point. It's basically like your cell phone, right? It's hitting off these towers that have internet on them, and you have a satellite dish on your house. It's not shooting at the sky. It's shooting at the tower. So
How much you pay for that? If you don't mind?
$80 a month for 35.
That's good. Unlimited.
Yeah. It's unlimited.
No cap?
Mhm.
That's good.
CIP is one of the best ones out there, but they haven't hit that area real heavy yet.
Oh, really?
And you normally have to have a tower, you would normally have to put a tower in yourself if they don't have one close enough to get above the trees. And then it'll ping theirs and it's like,
Oh yeah, their
Very fast.
new technology goes through tier. Because before, I had one on my house and then one down by the lake, and then but now it can go through the trees, so they don't have to have that extra stuff. So That's a big thing for people that are working from home, is having good internet, right? So.
Anybody have questions, we need to get them back to the office. So,
I know last time I was asked Spanish speakers in your office yet.
I don't know. Still working on that. It's difficult to recruit that, but we're hiring a recruiter actually, so hopefully we'll be able to satisfy that here pretty soon. Anything else?
anybody have questions? Don't be shy.
Do you have another one of the green ones?
We can make
I brought
copies.
5
Yeah,
of
we
them.
make
I'm not
copies.
sure. I was printing them from home, so I was trying not to overuse the ink cartridge there.
Yeah,
But
we'll make copies
I can
of
send
them.
them to you too, yeah. Yeah, and I'm putting together a cover letter for my prequels that'll talk about us and all that stuff. I'll put that on there. You know, that just helps with that, you know. And if you have buyers that are trying to use big banks or Quicken or whatever, they're never gonna get a house. Like, that's thrown out the window right away, so.
Do you guys do the down payment system loans and all that
We
kind
do
of stuff?
T-Shack, that's we don't do the other ones. T-Shack's the best one, TSAHC, it's up to 5% down payment and closing cost assistance.
What's the negative to that though?
The rate's higher than what normal FHA rates would be. It's a trade-off. So like
You pay the loan off over.
basically it's financing the down payment over
Yeah.
the course of the loan, but they can refinance it, you know, after a year and get out of it.
Isn't there another negative though? Because I read all about it and I was like,
There's no negative to the T-Shack
You might be
grant
thinking of the other
program.
one. Which
Yeah,
one that has the lien at the
TDHCA
end?
is a silent second that sits there and you
Yeah.
have to pay it off. I mean, there's a recapture on the T-Shack one. I've never seen one recaptured though. It's like, if you make this much and do this and the house does this and like, you know, it's all these different provisions.
That's an
I don't think
income?
there's anybody that actually even keeps track of
Income
it. So
limit?
there is income. It's like depending on where you
99?
are, it went up to like 101 recently.
you can't make more than minimum.
Yeah, but the more rural you get, the lower it goes.
Yeah.
So it's about the county it's in. So if you're in a DFW metro county, it's at 101. For the and the good thing about T-Shack, it's qualifying income. So like if spouse 1 can qualify and number 2 doesn't have to be on there to qualify, but they make money, then you can still do T-Shack. Some of the other ones, it's household income, like USDA is, and like the city down payment programs, those are household income.
You can't skip
But
one.
this is
leave
just
it off.
qualifying income. So like even if the client makes a $90,000 salary and they get a $20,000 bonus and you don't need that $20,000 to qualify, you just show the salary and not the bonus and they still qualify for it. So
We're gonna go over that Thursday in Bootcamp.
What about their credit score?
620.
And somebody told me, you said 620, but they told me, there's actually somebody from Fairway, if they did, they really need 640 for the lender to accept it. Is that?
No. That's probably their overlay. Every lender puts their own overlays on rules and guidelines and stuff like that. T-Shack has an addition, it's a half a point discount point that the buyer has to pay if it's a 620 to 639 credit score. That's the only difference.
Every lender has their own ways and regulations, like you're saying, so not everyone, not because one will take it, the next one may not, so.
Like if the lender comes in and says they do, like we do 600 credit scores on FHA, VA, but real guidelines are 530 for FHA and VA, and they have not changed. It's what the lenders will accept. So like there's some lenders out there going to 580 now. We were at 550 before COVID hit, but then it went up to like 640. Now it's come down 620, 600. So it's all about the risk involved with the loan, if they'll do it or not. I don't know anybody doing 530 FHA. I don't know a buyer that could qualify if they were 530. Even though their score is 530, it doesn't mean that they can actually
They get a
qualify.
negative somewhere.
And maybe what they were talking about with that 640 is when you add the gift funds, which is what T-Shack technically is in our software, when you add the gift to the loan, it adds a risk factor to it, and some won't approve. But it could be 660, it could be 680, it just depends on the overall risk factors inside their whole file that it may or may not approve. But we see a lot that are 620 to 6, like we ran one yesterday, and we had to get the debt ratio below 40% before this 625 credit score would qualify with down payment assistance. but it would qualify, if he had his own money, it would qualify up to like a 50% debt ratio. So it's all about you can't say like one scenario is the whole thing, but it does make it more risky, and the software sees that, so,
Okay.
for sure. And there's some conventional programs that are helping with lower down payments, 3% down conventional for first-time buyers. The Home Ready program.
How do we get that? Like these FHA people, 3.5% down payment assistance? I know that it's.
Depends on what their credit score. I mean, it'll go to 620, but it's the same thing. It's reading those risk factors. So will it approve it or not? And so we run it through both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac software to see if it will. And so we'll say it's just more expensive for them. So like FHA is not nearly as credit score driven on rate. The mortgage insurance is the same no matter what credit score you have, but on conventional, the rate is based on credit score, and so is the mortgage insurance. So if they're like a 640 credit score, they might get a 3.5% FHA rate, but the mortgage insurance is 0.85% no matter what. If they're a conventional loan, the rate might be 4%, and the MI might be 1.7, and so their payment's $300 or $400 more. So while they could qualify for conventional, to keep their payment in line, they might have to buy $30,000, $40,000 less house, or they have to be okay with that higher payment and qualify with that higher payment because of the risk factors involved with their credit score.
The very best thing you can do is put your people with the best of the best in the lenders and let them talk to them. And it's not our say you might get down, they have all kinds of products. Please talk to them, let them help you.
Mm-hmm.
Let them take the job and do their job. We don't have to get involved. And they'll give them the very best avenue, very best scenario for them and their present situation.
Right.
And that's the very thing to do. We can sit and waste time for hours thinking about what we could do different. Send them to the lender, let them do their job.
Mm-hmm. And then we give them those parameters, and this is what you can do. Do you want to do that? Yes or no? Okay. And no. Okay.
Do you have like a page like this that talks about all the different programs that your company works with?
He does.
That we
He's
could,
gonna send it to me. I'm gonna have it for Bootcamp on Thursday. He just didn't know what I asked him yet.
okay.
And if I don't have it,
Well,
I will
listen,
have it by
it's on our track,
Thursday.
everyone.
Yeah, could you send it to everybody, please? That
You
way
had
we can all
mentioned
have it.
earlier a calculator.